Howzit here, and the Galaxy S22 Ultra camera comparison series just keeps rolling. If you want to see the previous comparisons that I've done with it, I'll leave a link in the description or a card somewhere on the screen if you want to go check out those previous comparisons. But as the title suggests, today I have it up against the Vivo X70 Pro Plus, which might be tough to get here in the States, but it was one of my best camera systems on a smartphone of 2021, and definitely the best in low light of all the phones I've tested. So I'm really excited to see how the Galaxy S22 Ultra here compares to the Vivo X70 Pro Plus. As you can see, the Vivo does not have stabilization on the front-facing cameras, but they both do use Samsung sensors for their main cameras, with the S22 Ultra using the 108 megapixel HM3 sensor and the Vivo using the 50 megapixel GN1 sensor, which is also found on the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro. And both phones use dual telephoto cameras, with the S22 Ultra using a 3x and 10x optical zoom up to a 100 times digital zoom, and the Vivo uses a 2x and 5x optical zoom up to a 60 times digital zoom. And so one last thing to mention is that the S22 Ultra is running the Snapdragon chipset, not the Exynos. And with all that out of the way, all that really matters are the results and how they actually compare. So take a look at all the photos and videos and let me know what you think.
That's how I got that heat, let's go.
So here's a rear camera video test on the Galaxy S22 Ultra and Vivo X70 Pro Plus. As you can see, they both are recording from the rear facing cameras, and they are recording at 4K 60 frames per second on each. So I'll just pan around here to give you a feel for how these ultra wide angle cameras compare here in this particular setting side by side. Lots of greens and blues, which is why I like coming here. You can really compare the colors next to each other here, along with the contrast and everything else. So this is the ultra wide angle cameras. I'll come back with the main cameras now. All right, so we're back with the main cameras here at 4K 60 frames per second again. The Vivo won't let you switch between lenses while recording at 4K 60, so I just stopped the video earlier. But again, I'm just panning around to give you a feel for how these main cameras look side by side here in this exact same setting. And let's go ahead and pan over here now to the right, and we'll test out the zoom on that cell tower. So we can move into, let's see, maybe a 2x zoom here on the Vivo, just to go to a basic digital zoom here. And that should kind of get it right there. And let's go to a 2x on the Galaxy S22 Ultra as well. So 2x digital zoom on each. Now the Vivo won't use the telephoto lenses here at 4K 60. You can do that on the S22 Ultra. You're just gonna have to stop the video and change lenses and come back. So we'll test that out. But you can go to a max 10x digital zoom here on both. That's the S22 Ultra, and we can move all the way into 10x here on the Vivo as well. And this is about 10x now. So max 10x digital on each here on the main cameras at 4K 60. I'm gonna stop the video and we'll come back with the telephoto lenses on the S22 Ultra. So we're back with a 3x optical zoom on the S22 Ultra and a 3x digital zoom on the Vivo. And this telephoto lens can zoom all the way into a max 12x from that telephoto lens. And again, we'll go back to a max 10x here on the Vivo, just for comparison. So I'll stop the video, come back with the 10x optical on the S22 Ultra. All right, and so we're back now with the 10x optical zoom on the S22 Ultra, and we're at 10x digital still on the Vivo. And this 10x optical periscope lens can zoom all the way into a max 20x digital there on the S22 Ultra. So that's the max zoom on each of the phones here at 4K 60. All right, so now let's test autofocus here on the post, first with the S22 Ultra. So I found that the zoom on the S22 Ultra, or the focus, is a little bit slower, but if you get the right distance from the subject, it'll eventually focus in like that. So not the snappiest, but it'll eventually focus in like that. And the X70 Pro Plus here, really snappy autofocus on that one. And again, and away, and one more time. So a little bit faster autofocus on the Vivo. And let's go ahead and test stabilization as we walk down the stairs. So you can compare that side by side here at 60 frames per second in 4K. And let's go ahead and start jogging just to try to stress out that stabilization here. And we'll pull up here and point up into the sky so you can kind of see how they handle the exposure for the changing light. And just to show you the telephoto zoom on the Vivo, I have it at 1080p 30, which is where you can actually use the telephoto lenses, and the same is on the S22 Ultra. So it looks like they're doing some work on that tower, so we'll zoom in on that in a bit here. So let's move into that 2x telephoto lens on the Vivo. You'll see it snap in right there. And then let's go to the 3x telephoto on the S22 Ultra. So there you go. And then we can move into 5x optical zoom here on the Vivo. You also see that snap in as well. There we go. So you saw it change. So it's now on the 5x telephoto lens on the Vivo. And we'll go to the 10x telephoto or periscope zoom lens on the S22 Ultra. And so the Vivo can go from here all the way up to a 15x digital zoom. So that's what that looks like here. See the guy working on the tower. And we'll move into a max, I think 20x here digital on the S22 Ultra. So that is the max zoom here on both the phones. And again, you can only use that telephoto lens here on the Vivo in 1080p, 30 frames per second, not 60. Alright, so here's a low light video test on the S22 Ultra and the Vivo X70 Pro Plus. This is the ultra wide angle lens to start at 4K 30 frames per second. So I'm just going to pan around to give you a side-by-side view here of the ultra wide angle lenses and how they look here in this particular low light situation. And I'm going to stop the video and come back with the main lens. Alright, so we're back with the main lens on each. The Vivo does not let you switch between lenses while actively recording. The S22 Ultra does, so that's why I had to stop the video. And you can see how much brighter these main lenses are. They let in much more light than the ultra wide angle camera. The Vivo is looking a bit brighter here, at least in viewfinder to me. So again, I'm just panning around to give you a feel for how these main lenses compare side by side here. And actually not too bad all considering with that bright light over here. You can see that street light is flaring it out, but not as bad as I would think considering how bright that is. So let's go ahead and pan this way and we'll start walking to test stabilization. As well as, like I always do, go from a very well lit controlled environment like you saw there over to a much more difficult lighting, a much darker area, so you can compare and contrast how these cameras perform in different lighting situations at night here. And so as you start around the corner, it's going to get a lot darker, and it already is. But what I'm seeing in the viewfinder is that they're both brightening up everything much more than what I'm seeing with my own eyes here. And you're going to see a bit of noise because of that. And if you pull up here, we'll pan up into the sky so you can kind of see what that looks like here. And there is some light pollution, like I always say, but it's not pitch black. But because it's trying to brighten things up, you're probably seeing more noise and some light than there really is. But if we pan this way, mixed lighting situation again, down this darker alleyway with some accent lights coming off the building. So you can see how these cameras are handling that. So there's actually some stars up in the sky you can see over here. See how these cameras pick that up. So there you go, low light test in 4K on both phones. So here's a low light video test on the front facing cameras of the Galaxy S22 Ultra and Vivo X70 Pro Plus. This is at their max resolutions, which is 4K on the S22 Ultra, and it can record up to 60 frames per second, but we're doing 30 frames because 60 frames per second is a little bit too dark here in this lighting situation. And the X70 Pro Plus is at 1080p, 30 frames per second. That's its max resolution and frame rate. And there is no stabilization on the front facing camera on the Vivo, and it does have noise reduction on, so pay attention to the audio compared to the Samsung. And so I'm starting out in my usual testing spot in some pretty good light, so you can see what these cameras look like here with some fairly decent lighting situations here at night to give them every opportunity to give you the best possible video quality in a situation like this. So you can see all the lights around me. And we'll go ahead and start walking to test that stabilization so you can see what I'm talking about when it's going to look a lot more shaky here on the Vivo. And they clearly want you to use those rear cameras. Not giving you stabilization on the front camera on a phone like this is kind of crazy, but they're really paying attention to those rear cameras, obviously. And I'm walking past the fountain to my right so we can test out the noise cancellation or reduction on the Vivo compared to the Samsung here. And we'll pan around so you can see how these front-facing cameras do with those really bright streetlights behind me. And actually not too bad on both. If anything, maybe Samsung's throwing it up a little bit more than the Vivo is. And if you go back here to this darker area, you can see what these cameras look like here side by side. And of course, both these cameras are brightening things up a little bit more than what it actually is. It's a bit darker than what these are showing, more so on the Samsung. And the color production is a little bit warmer here on the Vivo from what I noticed, but that's pretty much going to do it for this camera comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra and the Vivo X70 Pro Plus. So let me know what you thought about this comparison and which one you preferred. My quick summary basically is that I think both do well for photos, and it's going to come down to, like I always say, the color science that you prefer coming out of auto mode if that's how you want to point and shoot. But they both give you flexibility as far as Pro mode. You have Expert RAW on the Samsung. You also have Zeiss Natural mode if you just like to point and shoot and want more natural colors on the Vivo. And like I said, they both have Pro mode for full control. So it's really just going to come down to how you shoot. If you shoot auto, you're going to have to like the colors that come out of each of the phones. And if you prefer to get more control, they both give you that. And as far as video, I think Samsung still does video a little bit better. I like the video quality on the Samsung more than the Vivo. I don't think that it's the Vivo's strong suit. And in low light, I still think Vivo is probably the best smartphone. For shooting in low light, it doesn't even need a night mode. And it's just a lot more crisp, a lot cleaner low light images than pretty much any other phone. Although the Samsung is not bad in low light at all. It's just the Vivo, I think, is doing a little bit better there. So that's my quick summary about what I thought about each of these phones and how they performed. Let me know what you think. Drop me a comment. And if you have any other questions about either of these phones, I can try to help answer. I'll try to answer what I can. As always, thanks for watching.